This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. This is a finance show for small business owners about money, how it works in our business and our personal lives, and how we can build wealth to be financially independent. I'm your host, Justin Goodbread, and today is episode number 23. I'm titling today's episode, Who is Your Customer? I'm going to go ahead and answer that, then I'll lay out why I'm answering that question, who is our customer? If the goal is to sell our business, then the customer is actually the person who is going to purchase our business. Let me say that again. If the goal is to sell our business, then our true customer is the person who will ultimately buy our business. Well, that leads to the question, how do we identify the possible candidate? I mean, we could be talking 10, 15, 20 years from now before we try to sell the business. How do we identify them? And further, how can we position the business to attract our ultimate true customer? This past Christmas, I was walking into our local Walmart. My family, we spend Christmas time doing country stuff. So I went into Walmart to pick up some ammo so we could shoot some targets. And as I walk into Walmart, it's my mother and I, we walk into Walmart, and right in front of us, the day after Christmas, is this clearance area. And in the clearance area, there is this hideous, I cannot tell you how ugly this suit is. And it's a suit like a man's dress suit, like you would wear to a formal. This suit has trousers or pants. It has the jacket portion. It has a tie. It has an undershirt. I mean, it's the full gamut. It even had a belt attached to this particular one. It didn't have socks and it didn't have shoes, but it was the entire suit. And this suit was like Christmas green. That's the only way I can describe it. It's Christmas green. It was just a usual green that we see at Christmas time. And all over this suit were icons plastered about an inch by an inch. And they had Christmas themes. Like it had an elf, and it had a Santa Claus, and it had presents, and it had Christmas trees, and it had Christmas lights, and gingerbread man. And it just was covered with all sorts of Christmas themes from the top to the bottom. The pants had them all over it. The coat had it. The tie was different. The shirt was different. The belt had it. I mean, it was hideous. And I thought to myself as I look at this thing kind of cockeyed, there is no way in God's green earth I'd be caught dead in a suit that looked like that. And I'm just thinking this. My mom, she's standing beside me and she says out loud, well, different strokes for different folks. Now, I don't know if you ever heard that. You know, life would be boring if we were all the same, right? I'm kind of glad we're not all the same. We all have different likes and dislikes. Now, if you know anything about me, you'll realize that I'm always right. At least I think I am. Have you ever met someone like that? That they're always right and they'll argue with a signpost? That's kind of me sometimes. We had this epic battle in our house about the right type of pizza. Now, if you know me, you know I am a pizza connoisseur. I love pizza. Like, really, really love pizza. If I could eat pizza every day of the week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, without gaining like 1,000 pounds, I would. I love pizza. I like all types of pizza. I like the meat on there. I like sausage. I like hamburger. I like bacon. Oh, bacon on pizza. It's like, oh, heavenly, right? I like pepperoni, salami, put any type of meat on there. I can handle it. I like green olives and black olives and all the different types of fixings that go on top of the pizza. I like onions and bell peppers. However, there is one pizza that should be a cardinal sin to have. It just should be. And I'm going to lay it out there. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. Hey, shoot me a tweet on Twitter or drop me a post somewhere on one of the social media avenues and tell me why I'm wrong. But I'm going to lay it out. There is one pizza that should be banned. It should be outlawed. And it is pineapple and ham. Now look, friends, that is not a pizza. There is no way that should even classify as a pizza. But wouldn't you know it, my wife, that's her favorite one. So the one pizza that I cannot stand, that I think is criminal, is her favorite pizza. See, we all have different tastes. We all have different preferences. The same thing can be said about the buyers. They have different tastes. They have different preferences. They may like the green suit at Christmas time, or they may think like me and like, I wouldn't be caught dead in that. They may like a meat lover's pizza, or they may be like me and says, ham and pineapple is just wrong. People just need to get right with God if you're going to try to eat that thing. Buyers come in all different shapes, sizes. Some have a little bit of money, some have a lot. Some buyers are very tight, very frugal with their money, and some are very loose. Some want an instant return on their investment, and some really don't care about a return on their investment. How about that one? Some may look at your business as a long-term viable options, while others may look at it as the competition. They just want to knock out the competition. So there are many types of buyers. But how do we know which type of buyers we should pursue? Well, obviously at the end of the day, most business owners will desire the person who's going to pay the highest for the company, but not always. I know some business owners that turn down the highest bid so they could have a buyer who worked more with their philosophical structure. So money's not everything, but many people, they'll say, hey, I'm looking for the person who's going to give me the highest return on my money, that's going to pay me the most. So who are the buyers? What type of person or companies buy businesses? Well, there's a couple of different categories you can break them out. And by going through this exercise, I want you to think about who would probably make an offer on your business. Which one of these categories would it be? Okay. And if you understand what the category is, then you can design or shape or earmark or determine or outlay or project or whatever word you want to throw in there for your particular style business. You can design it to where it's more attractive to said buyer. In the first category, you've got two major buyers, the financial buyer and the strategic buyer. Now, the financial buyer first, these are individuals who are often trade business like they trade stocks. Okay. I know a few financial buyers. One of my friends is actually a financial buyer. He'll crunch the numbers to the point where he can estimate the return on the investment, put in all different scenarios, almost to the point like you could see people crunching numbers with like rental houses, right? They'll know, okay, this house is worth X. If I can get Y return on it, then I can flip it in 5 years and I get a Z result. That's the same thing with financial buyers. They're the ones crunching the numbers. These buyers are often looking to hold the business for less than 10 years. And you can expect that these financial buyers will be extremely detailed. Okay? They want to know all the ins and outs of your businesses. They're not leaving any risk that they can't make their return on investment within a very, very short time or within their duration of time period. Now, the strategic buyer is just a slight bit different. The strategic buyer many times is not looking to flip a business per se. They're not trading stocks in the form of a business, if you will. The strategic buyer is often looking for a business which gels or which mates or works like a cog in a wheel. My grandmother, she had a grandfather clock. You ever seen a grandfather clock and you look in there and you see all those intricate wheels and how the cogs just nicely meet together to where when they turn, you'll have small wheels and big wheels and they all just work in harmony together. That's kind of like a strategic buyer. They're looking for a business which will help to enhance or gel with their current business. Now, many times a strategic buyer could actually be a competitor. They could be a competitor who desires your customer base. In the financial world, you often have acquisitions where financial firms will try to buy out smaller firms in order to get their customer base or to enter into a particular market niche. One of my friends who's in a different state, he's a certified financial planner like myself. He sold his business to a company who was trying to make an inroads into his particular demographic, his particular location. So that would be a strategic buyer. A strategic buyer may be looking at your systems. You may have a staffing portion of your company. I have a friend who's an insurance agent, and he bought out 3 different insurance agencies. Each one of them had a pro, and he pulled it into a conglomerate, if you will, of a company, and he was able to get the best of all the different systems and integrate it together, and now he has a jam-up practice. I have a client, a very good friend actually, is a client of us also, that repairs water lines for utilities. That was his primary company. He would go in and repair water lines. He also bought a company that did boring. It was a machine that dug a hole underground, like under a parking lot or under a road or under a river even. And they could transfer water lines, or they could transfer fiber optics. So he actually bought a boring company because it mated with his current underground utilities company. And then he also bought a paving company. So whenever now he goes in and he tears the road up to fix it, he can actually pave it. Those are what's called synergies, or they were synergistic together. So the first category of buyers we have is typically a financial buyer or a strategic buyer. So think about it in your perspective. Who is more likely going to buy your style business? Now, I'll tell you that strategic buyers typically will pay more. than financial buyers. But you may end up having a business which a financial buyer finds attractive.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
Another category of buyers are the high risk takers. And you'll recognize these names: angel investor, venture capitalist, or private equity. Each of those are high risk takers, if you will. These are the gamblers of the purchasing world. So let's analyze these three in the second category. The angel investor is typically working with startup companies. Now, the angel investors, they take the most risk. They really do. They put more of their dollars typically on the line, and they are looking for companies which have a promise. And their job is to come in and buy and then help drive success. And whenever they purchase or buy into a business, they're not going to take typically all of the assets. So they're not going to buy all the stock, but they will take a majority of the interest in the company. That's standard in the angel investing world. Now, venture capitalists, they're not there like the angels are. They're not there buying companies on the ground up. Think Shark Tank. We've all seen the show on TV where you have the multimillionaires sitting there and everybody's coming to pitch their company about why their company is the next big one. And ultimately, you'll see some of these people, God help them, you're looking at him. I was watching one time, and he's like, I haven't made any sales, and I really don't have my market defined, but I think my company's worth $1.2 million. And I'm like, dude, you're fixing to get crucified. And he did. He got crucified. He felt kind of bad for the guy. I wanted to crawl underneath a rock for him. Whenever you watch Shark Tank, you're watching people who the venture capitalists, or the sharks in this case, will buy into a company or try to take ownership. And what typically has to be there? Well, typically, they had to have a product and some sales. Okay? They have to have proven themselves that they know how to run a company typically. Venture capitalists will often come in and make a purchase in that company with the idea that they're going to use their connections. On Shark Tank, it's not uncommon when a good company comes up, they start volleying back and forth. And I've heard some of the sharks, they'll say, well, I have connections at so-and-so company. And that's the sales pitch now that the sharks used back to the seller to try to get them to choose their offer. That's venture capitalists. Now, private equity is a little different. They're firms that typically only purchase the best of the best of the best companies. Consequently, they pay the most. And private equity typically deal with very, very large companies for sale. So like $100 million plus. These are the ones which are pretty sizable. So that's the difference between angel, venture, and private equity. Now, another category of ways you can identify your potential buyers would be your buyers by location. Okay? So what do I mean by buyers by location? Well, let's first start with like your local area. So let's call these your mom and pop buyers. So your mom and pop purchasers are typically going to buy little companies. And their whole goal is to come in and get a return on investment within about 3 to 5 years. They're really not interested in spending a long time to get off the ground. So this would be somebody where you see a company for sale. Maybe they say, I'm going to buy it for $1 million. And they hope to, or their goal is to recoup all of their revenue within a 3 to 5 year period. Okay, so that's a mom and pop buyer. And they're typically very, very small in location. They typically work in a very small geographical area. Now, a regional purchaser, if we're dealing with locations of buyers, they're typically going to purchase a little bit bigger company, but they're also waiting longer to see the results of their purchase. So they'll go in and they'll say, hey, we'll make this purchase, and we have 5 to 10 years before we have to see a return on investment. Let's call them middle market people. These are going to be the ones that they're not really buying the small companies. They're using more of a longer view approach. Now, they could be strategic in nature. They could be financial in nature, but they're looking for about a 5 to 10 year return on their investment. Now, the Mac Daddy, the grand poobah of all potential buyers of your company is your largest companies. These are the publicly traded companies or globally based companies. They look for companies which are the best of the best, and they pay the most. But these purchasers want everything. Think about Facebook. Facebook has made so many acquisitions. Every time you turn on the news, it seems like Facebook is buying another company. Now, some of their acquisitions are strategic in nature, and some of them are financial in nature. So a Facebook would be a large or a publicly traded company. Now, these buyers, these big firms, they're going to insist on solid profits. They're going to be looking for things like reliable trends or steady customers. Now, the cool thing is, if you can build a company and sell it to a national player, dude, you're a rock star. I mean, you're like winning the lottery type rock star, except you've worked your tail off to get there. So I give you this episode today as a smattering of the different types of buyers. My challenge to you today is this. Look at your particular business. Who do you think would be most intrigued and be most likely to provide dollars for your particular business? If you can identify whether it be a strategic or a financial, then you have an idea on which direction to grow the company. Maybe you're in that venture capitalist. Maybe you already have a business involved and it's moving forward and you're like, man, I don't want to sell all the company. I want to sell some of it so I can grow it further. Maybe you're in that venture capital world. Or maybe you're at the point now that you're saying, man, I just need a regional buyer. I know a restaurant in our area that's getting ready to go up for sale and they just want to liquidate it. They want to get a reasonable income, but they just want to liquidate it. So the idea behind this episode is just think about your buyer. Who is your actual customer? Remember, the actual customer is a person who ultimately buys your company. This is the person that you want to market or you want to build your company for. So guys, that's it for this week's episode number 23. As I always say, life is hard, life is complicated. This is getting kind of fun if you really think about it. Just let's remember to keep our lives at least financially simple. Hey, y'all go out and make it a great day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.